Hello and welcome to this edition of the museum. She was known as the Black Dahlia, but her real name was Elizabeth Short. And when the 22-year-old girl was found murdered in the Leimert Park section of Los Angeles, a hunt ensued for a vicious killer. Meanwhile, 120 miles south in the city of San Diego police also went to work because prior to going to Los Angeles, Elizabeth Short actually resided in the city of San Diego. Today, we're going to retrace her steps. We're going to find out where she lived and find out where she played as we go back in time on the trail of the Black Dahlia. Accounts differ as to when Elizabeth Short arrived in San Diego. She came to the West Coast during World War II to reunite with her father, who'd abandoned the family in her childhood. Like many girls of that era, a dream of stardom and love probably also played a factor. There was also an issue with her health. Plagued with asthma since childhood, Elizabeth would often winter in Florida. However, the arid climate of California was probably better suited to her health condition. Some researchers claim she came to San Diego from Hollywood as early as December 6, 1946. A 2007 San Diego Magazine article, authored by Lionel Van Deerlen, states she arrived on December 9th. Retired LAPD Detective Steve Hodel, who has written extensively about the Black Dahlia case and has even gone so far as to provide compelling evidence that his father, Dr. George Hodel, was her killer, places her in San Diego on December 12th. Regardless of when she arrived, Elizabeth came into town via the bus and discovered San Diego was a wide-open city of golden sunshine and clean beaches. The economy was booming. The war was over, however, with the Marine Corps recruit depot and a naval training center just 5 miles north of downtown. Uniformed service members were everywhere. For Elizabeth Short, a woman that dreams of one day marrying a service member, it should have been paradise. It wasn't. She arrived broke and hungry and was ultimately forced to seek shelter in the Aztec Theater located at 5th and G Street in downtown. Dorothy French was a 25-year-old ticket girl at the Aztec Theater when she met Elizabeth. Accounts differ as to how they met. Either Elizabeth struck up a conversation with Dorothy, or Dorothy found her sleeping in the theater. Either way, once Dorothy learned Elizabeth was destitute and homeless, she invited her to stay at the home she shared with her mother, Vera French, and her 10-year-old brother. Their residence was located at 2750 Camino Pedrero in the Bayview Terrace housing development in Pacific Beach. The home was less than 10 miles north of downtown. The entire neighborhood consisted of hastily constructed duplexes designed to house San Diego's exploding population during the Second World War. Elizabeth would live with the French family until January 9, 1947. Dorothy's mother, Vera, described Elizabeth as shy and mysterious. Vera also said Elizabeth seemed to be more interested in dating men than looking for a job. Vera later told detectives she was concerned about having a young woman living on her couch and the effect it had on her 10-year-old son. As the French family supported her, Elizabeth sent a letter to her mother, Phoebe, stating she was living in San Diego with a girlfriend and had found a job at the Naval Hospital. In reality, it was Vera French who worked at the Naval Hospital, and there's no record of Elizabeth ever being employed there. Even as she was residing with the French family, Elizabeth was also sending letters to friends asking for money and even a place to live. Elizabeth also spent time at Sheldon's Cafe, located on what was then Pacific Highway. The site was demolished years ago and would now be located in the 4700 block of Mission Bay Drive. Today, that site is occupied by a modern fast food restaurant.
In 1943, my family moved from East San Diego to the public housing in Linda Vista, and we lived in the temporary housing on Willington Street. Those houses have since been torn down and been replaced by Navy housing. These were the place I lived. My family lived with my sister, my dad, mom. Was a 2-bedroom duplex. Those units were set on in a circular, like a court system. They were very plain, very simple. We didn't even have a refrigerator. They had ice boxes rather than refrigerators. And like I said, it was a 2-bedroom home that I shared with my mother, father, and sister. The homes that we lived in were the same as the ones that the Black Dahlia lived in. I had a friend who I visited frequently, and this was one of there were three other projects in the city that were the same. The ones there in PB, the ones in Linda Vista, and there was ones around the Midway area where the sports arena is now, prefab type homes.
Elizabeth Short's last night in San Diego was spent watching the Raymond Chandler feature, The Black Dahlia. In that movie, one of the characters, Helen, portrayed by Doris Dowling, was also the victim of a mysterious homicide. The last person to see Elizabeth Short alive in the city of San Diego was Robert "Red" Manley. The married traveling salesman picked up Elizabeth on January 8, 1947 from the Camino Pedrero address, and in his statement to police said they spent that afternoon and evening watching movies, going dancing, and drinking. They ended the evening in a Pacific Beach motel room. According to Manley, Elizabeth had too much to drink, and one of them slept on the bed while the other one slept in a chair. They left for Los Angeles the next day. According to Manley, he dropped off Elizabeth Short at the swanky Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. It was the last time anyone saw her alive. Where Elizabeth Short spent her time from January 9th until January 15th remains a mystery that's unsolved to this day. As one might expect, Manley was the top suspect in the Black Dahlia murder. However, after multiple police interrogations and a lie detector test, police cleared him. He was later committed to an insane asylum. Robert Manley died on January 9, 1986. It was exactly 39 years to the day since he and the Black Dahlia parted ways in Los Angeles. The body of Elizabeth Short was found on January 15th in the Leimert Park district of Los Angeles. She had been surgically cut in half and drained of her blood. The body is also slashed and a leg tattoo cut off. In a final touch, a macabre smile had been deliberately carved into her face, and she was obscenely posed, as though the killer wanted to make one final statement of degradation. Even veteran policemen described the scene as remarkably cruel. Because she was found nude, the only option the LAPD had to identify her was through fingerprints. The press allowed the police to use the mimeograph machine to send her ink prints to Washington, D.C. That event marked one of the first times in police history where fingerprints were electronically transmitted. The FBI connected the prints to Elizabeth from a 1944 arrest for underage drinking in Santa Barbara. With her identity established, the LAPD quickly went to work in finding a suspect in the grisly murder. Captain Jack Donahoe was the ranking officer for the Black Dahlia case. He knew if they were going to find out who killed her, they needed information on the days leading up to the murder. An information flyer was distributed to police agencies across the state. 120 miles south, the SDPD assigned Detective Lieutenant Ed Diekman to oversee the investigation into her time in San Diego. Diekman was a veteran investigator and run the Homicide Bureau for more than a decade. His subordinate detectives were Thomas Stotler, Gerald LaFond, Russell Ormsby, and George Orr. Detectives interviewed the French family. Dorothy French said that during her stay on Camino Pedrero, Elizabeth seemed constantly in fear of someone and was even frightened any time someone came to the door. Vera added to that by stating a neighbor once reported an incident where two men and a woman drove up to the French house and knocked on the door in the late hour. According to the neighbor, when no one answered the door, the trio ran back to the car, then drove off. When Vera asked Elizabeth about the incident, Elizabeth said she had peeped through the door when the three knocked, but she did not answer. Vera told the detectives that Elizabeth seemed very frightened in talking about the incident. Vera ended the interview by stating the last time she saw Elizabeth was on January 8th when she left Camino Pedrero, accompanied by a man named Red. Detectives also spoke with employees of Sheldon's Cafe. Jadelle Gray and Adeline McSwain worked as waitresses at the diner. Both women remembered Elizabeth. They also claimed she had a favorite chair when she visited, and they told the investigators the last time he saw her was on the 14th, accompanied by a well-dressed red-haired man who seemed vain because he was constantly looking at himself in a mirror. Later, based on newspaper photos, both women stated Manley was not the man she was last seen with. To further complicate the already confusing case, women stated the last time they saw Elizabeth was approximately 13 hours before she was found dead in L.A. Detectives also located R.H. Goldsmith, who worked at a service station next to the restaurant. Goldsmith told detectives he saw Elizabeth on January 14th at a nearby bus stop. Goldsmith insisted the woman he saw was Elizabeth, as he recalled her stunning looks and cheery demeanor. The detectives continued to comb the neighborhood for clues. However, in the end, all they were left with were stories and conjecture. The only physical evidence they had located was her hat and scarf. The San Diego Trail had grown cold. Just days after Elizabeth Short was found brutally murdered in Los Angeles, another woman was also found brutally murdered. Her nude, mutilated body was strewn in a vacant field, and the letters BD were carved across her stomach with lipstick. Her name was French, no relation to the family Elizabeth had stayed with while in San Diego, however.
You know, being a detective today is not much different than it would have been of 1947. It's still a matter of going out and working. You have to go door to door, find out who the people are that were involved, and do a lot of legwork. The technologies that we have today are much different. DNA, blood work, fingerprints are much more advanced, and we could, be much more successful in the investigation. But the basics of that investigation are exactly the same as they were in 1947.
The Black Dahlia case quickly became a media circus, and the press wasted no time fanning the flames. Rumors of a San Diego serial killer had swirled around the city for more than a decade, but despite the police department announcing the cases were not related as far back as 1935, the serial killer suggestion once again resurfaced with the murder of the Black Dahlia.
As a detective, I've worked serial killer cases. These cases can be complicated, and you must be driven by the facts. You can't let the outside pressures such as your emotions, the news media, politics, any of that stuff cannot be involved. You have to deal strictly with the facts and a lot of hard work.
By the 1970s, the Aztec had fallen into disrepair. Then, in the 1980s, downtown San Diego began a major redevelopment. By the 21st century, the theater was now a major clothing retailer. Today, thousands of people walk by the building with no idea of its connection to one of California's most notorious unsolved murders. We wanted to track down where the Black Dahlia lived during her time in San Diego. Since the museum owns two 1940s-era STPD cars, when we took to the streets to find 2750 Camino Pedrero, we decided to do it in style in our 1948 traffic supervisor's car. We filmed the journey from our black and white Crown Victoria patrol car.
We're standing on the corner of Olney and Pico, and this is the neighborhood where the Black Dahlia would have been when she stayed in San Diego. Pico is still Pico, however, if you go north of where we're at now, it does become other streets. Camino Pedrero is no longer there. It was actually torn down in 1960.
We really hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give us a thumbs up down below and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We post new videos as they become available. For more information on the San Diego Police Museum, visit our website, and of course, we are open to the public as well. And as always, thank you for watching.